In 1676, on a silent morning in Sicily, the convent of Palma di Montechiaro hid a secret. A nun, alone in her cell, wrote something that shouldn't exist. A letter covered in strange symbols, born from a dark trance. Maria Crocifissa claimed the devil himself guided her hand. For centuries, those words remained an enigma, feared, hidden, untouched. Until recently, the truth began to surface, and it's more unsettling than anyone imagined. Welcome to Lost Letters. Today, we unearth the story of a manuscript that defies logic, of a woman torn between faith and the abyss, and of a mystery that still whispers from the past. She was alone in her cell when the darkness seemed to take form. In a trance-like state, her hands moved furiously across the paper. When the convent bells rang that morning in 1676, what they found wasn't just a fainted nun, but an enigma that would challenge centuries. The manuscript she clutched seemed pulled from a nightmare, filled with indecipherable symbols, rapid and aggressive strokes, as if the paper itself had been seized by evil. The author, Maria Crocifissa della Concezione, a young Sicilian nun who claimed she was possessed by the devil. For over 300 years, no one could grasp what those words meant. The letter was stored, studied, feared, but remained a mystery. Until recently, something shifted. Fragments of its content came to light, revealing a disturbing message that perhaps should never have been read. This is the story of a forgotten manuscript. A letter that echoes from the past like a dark whisper, and of a woman who, possessed or not, left behind one of the most unsettling documents ever found in a convent. The year was 1676. Sicily was still a land shaped by conflicts, fervent faith, and a religiosity that colored every facet of life. It was an era when the supernatural wasn't just believed, it was feared. Amid this world of silent monasteries and candlelit nights lived Isabella Tomasi, a young woman from an aristocratic family. At 15, Isabella chose to forsake her privileged lineage and devote herself entirely to God. Thus, she received a new name, Maria Crocifissa della Concezione. In the convent of the Benedictine nuns of Palma di Montechiaro, she lived in seclusion, seeking holiness, purification, and perhaps redemption. The convent walls held whispers and prayers, but they also harbored profound silences, where the human mind could wander between faith and madness. Maria Crocifissa was known for her intense devotion, but also for moments of disturbance and unrest. Some nuns reported episodes of screams, fainting, and altered states. In that era, such signs could be interpreted in two ways: divine grace or demonic possession. It was in this setting, between worship and fear, that the letter emerged. A letter that didn't seem to be the work of a mere religious woman, but of something or someone far darker. It was an ordinary morning at the convent of Palma di Montechiaro, until the silence was shattered. When the other nuns went to check Maria Crocifissa's cell, they found a scene straight out of a nightmare. The young woman lay unconscious on the cold floor, her face and hands smeared with dark ink. Beside her, a crumpled piece of paper, and on it, a letter. But it wasn't just any letter. The manuscript was covered in disjointed symbols, an incomprehensible script made of letters that seemed to belong to multiple languages at once: Greek, Latin, Arabic, runic symbols. None of the nuns could decipher a single word. When Maria regained consciousness, what she said sent chills through the convent. She claimed she had been possessed by the devil himself that night. She said that, with no control over her mind or hands, she was forced to write what he dictated, a letter from the darkness. The news spread. The manuscript was immediately treated as a dangerous relic, a possible record of demonic possession. While priests tried to make sense of the event, the letter was hidden, preserved, but never understood. What Maria Crocifissa had written in the early hours remained as mysterious as the source of the voice she claimed to have heard. The letter had only 14 lines, but it carried a weight that spanned centuries. Written with rapid, forceful strokes, as if each letter was etched with urgency or fury, the manuscript seemed alive, or cursed. No one in the convent could grasp what was there, and perhaps that was for the best. Scholars of the time tried, unsuccessfully, to decipher the symbols. Some said it was a corrupted angelic language. Others believed Maria had invented a code during her trance, blending languages she might have secretly studied. What they knew for certain was the letter's effect: unease, fear, silence. The alphabet seemed to float between classical Greek, liturgical Latin, Arabic characters, and signs resembling runic inscriptions. Nothing made sense, and that made the manuscript even more dangerous. If it was truly dictated by the devil, as Maria claimed, then each line might carry a curse, a forbidden secret, or something never meant for human eyes. The letter was carefully stored, kept away from the public and the faithful. Over the centuries, it remained there, still, yet pulsing with the weight of mystery. A silent reminder that not every manuscript is meant to be understood, and that sometimes silence is the only safe translation. For over 340 years, the enigma of Maria Crocifissa della Concezione's letter remained untouched, locked in archives and veiled by history. But like all mysteries, one day it finds someone determined to unravel it. In 2017, a team of researchers from the Ludum Science Museum in Sicily took on the challenge. Armed with cutting-edge technology and a state-of-the-art linguistic analysis program, they attempted the unthinkable, to finally decipher the letter. Using software that linked writing patterns and features of ancient alphabets, researchers uncovered something unusual. The letters, though seemingly meaningless, formed patterns suggesting more than a simple code. Some words began to emerge clearly. Among the legible fragments, references to central figures of Christian faith appeared. God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, but not in a reverent way. The letter described these concepts as dead weights. There were also mentions of the river Styx from Greek mythology, a line hinting that the evil Maria experienced wasn't just a vision, but a reality from another world. The words revealed in the translation brought no peace, only greater unease. What the nun had written was far from a plea for salvation. It was almost a challenge, a confrontation between good and evil, faith and temptation. And though modern translation clarified parts of the content, the true meaning and why Maria was chosen remains shrouded in mystery. As Maria Crocifissa della Concezione's letter began to be deciphered, interpretations of its content sparked intense debate. Was it a product of demonic possession, or merely the creation of a troubled mind? The question echoing among scholars and clergy was Maria truly possessed, or was her letter an expression of something far more human, and perhaps even more tragic? Some experts suggest Maria Crocifissa suffered from a mental disorder, possibly schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Visions of demonic possession, common at the time, could be explained by a psychological condition causing hallucinations and compulsive behaviors. In this view, the letter was a reflection of the nun's inner torment, a cry for help disguised in mysterious, incomprehensible symbols. Others, however, argue Maria Crocifissa was no ordinary woman. For them, the letter was evidence of a supernatural phenomenon, a true testimony of demonic possession, where the written words were not the product of a human mind, but the direct influence of forces beyond comprehension. For these scholars, the diverse languages and symbols in the manuscript weren't just the result of mental chaos, but a deliberate code meant to convey something human eyes weren't ready to grasp. The debate persists today. While some argue Maria merely expressed her faith in a distorted way, others believe her experience reflected a battle between good and evil. The truth remains elusive. For many, the fact that the Church never deemed Maria mad but rather a tormented saint places the letter and its origins in a realm of uncertainty where answers are never fully clear. María Crocifissa della Concezione's letter is not just a historical fragment, but a living mystery that continues to echo through time. Even after all these years, the legacy of the letter and Maria herself lingers like a shadow. She was not merely a woman who lived in a convent, but a figure who transcended history to become part of a greater enigma. For some, Maria became a symbol of the struggle against invisible forces, a reminder that even the purest faith can be tested by darkness. For others, she exemplifies profound human suffering, the thin line between sanctity and madness, and how religions of the time dealt with psychological disturbances. Her story prompts reflection on how the Church interpreted the boundary between the divine and the demonic, often without the modern understanding we have of the human mind. The mystery of the letter will never be fully resolved. Maria Crocifissa's words, dictated by an entity she believed to be the devil, continue to challenge scholars and the curious. And though the letter has been widely studied and its fragments deciphered, the true interpretation, if one exists, remains locked away, awaiting a new perspective, technology, or understanding to reveal what still lies hidden. What is certain is that to this day, Maria Crocifissa and her enigmatic letter continue to fascinate and terrify all who encounter her story. A tale of possession, faith, mystery, and above all, a woman who, in a moment of despair and desolation, left the world a legacy that echoes in the darkness.